Hello, my name is Arthur. I want to share with you a short story from yesterday that I experienced in a electronic store. It was something surprising for me, but not new. As well as I shows that while I was consulting from the personnel from the that work there, uh, one of these friendly workers is helping me, but he did, didn't know how to make further. It was for this. The question was this chip, the remote conductor. Let's say conductor for the device, something like cell, telephone cell, and this makes interesting because his colleague was requesting. He asked his colleague, he may help about this problem issue, and this colleague is becoming without reason, obviously reason, become hysterical and asking him what can he do? What can he do? What is to do? While he knows well as well what is to do. So I decided for this reason to share with you this small story, because I was asking me what is hysterical. So I would say in this case we can say his arousal level is at an unusual high level. That's the usual form, even to other peoples, not only to him. The way how he managed to handle this, let's say the first question or named from Freud was hysterical. So in this case I would say as a medical perspective, a medical practitioner would say he is infected. So hysterical is here in this case infected. The second one is nature science. So cause and effect, and the cause is in the past and the effect is now. The trigger am I or my supposed morphogenetic appearance or whatever, portrait or person. So and as cause called Freud the processing of being sauber from parents or tutor person for orphan in that are growing up in institution, to make the comparison. This is the reason why I'm telling always that there is not only the inbred question that Freud centralized in his thematic why person or human beings become neurotic. I would say the same problem have also people that in child's or infancy that are not growing up in his family, in his own genetical hereditary persons. So I call the orphan the best case, that it's not about the same topic or the only topic as inbred or whatever genetic issue that we postulate in the modern time. So this is more for me whatever social, political or geopolitical, whatever questions. And the medical would say the cause is in the past, as Freud, meaning that the processing during the sober cleaning the child with water, whatever, the person that cares about him or her or it d- makes without unwillingly. We take the case that it is not abuse case. So normally, unwillingly, the new info that Freud brought about 150 years ago was that he saw this as a medical, this as a professor, as a doctor, that he was, that this caused too much arousal to the kind, to the child of infancy. This is this is not the time when this case or the cause in the past begin the illness. No, it needs more years, more experience for the child that to come to this effect, accumulation factor, time. So about I would say puberty, begin puberty or pre-puberty, 8-10 years or more. This is the time when the illness or disturbing become to be present. So in addition comes when the human being is after his puberty and his processing of development. We go in the present time as adult. This is the time when we not only in medicine but also in nature, so called precisely nature science, that don't compares himself or herself with so-called Geisteswissenschaft, in English human science, that was or is belletristic, so more art than a science. That is the competition opinion between these two kind of science. For me, it's in both science, because there is the same method they use: principle, factor, criterion, category, classification, etc. So that all this, as the medicine, put in addition to this cause effect, also the trigger. The trigger is always in the everyday present. So, and this is for the adult man in psychology or psychiatry, as well as partnership, or for child school, kindergarten schooling, processing, etc. In the case of adult, we are speaking for a relationship in sense of communication, sexuality, as well as work relationship and social relationship. So this is the trigger for the whatever disturbing that shows up us, what have this problem or what is the function or not of this person. So between this present and past, where is the begin in present and the past in the explanation models are given, is important for this person in this store where I was yesterday. That as hysterical, I have to make my explaining in that way that whatever the medicine says, I want to understand it. So not only I, because also amateur, whatever. So this is the complex of classification, and nobody says what is the ground, where in which we are moving here, to understand better. I'd say it will be more for everybody. If we for the higher life quality, for me it's very important to free speech, as in USA or in English cultures, usually evaluated very much. We speak here in Europe, but it's not so the case, or it's not every time the case. And between this yesterday or past and present, the essential moment, the trigger, it must to be my person, because this was the situation, the ground, the reason why I was there, and this is the motion or why this person became hysterical. So why I call is hysterical, because the first time when Freud began whatever to study as a neurologist, he makes nothing than studies as usual as nature science usually do in labor and with snakes, operation, whatever, and criterion using, etc. And have some small but very good progression in this work, as I heard or I read something. But later, this interest was for him more to help people, to help the low, I would say, our low level society. This is the new for me, not inbred or whatever. We have a problem with this, or some of the people. So, if somebody says that this is not only the reason between among science or the medicals, this is your problem. What I am interested is how can we make something simple to understand everyone, and to make possible in everyday life situation, to make possible to understand that this type of situation is manageable. And also the neurotic people, he has not to have afraid about whatever he see or saw or remember in this moment. He become the control. This is the explanation from Freud, psychology or psychiatry, whatever, that in his inner wording, psychic, so-called psychic, he remembers something that want either not to remember or not to see. So I am, as a trigger, as a stimulus, I would say I remember him to something. In this situation, because he dissociated from his body instead from his reality. On the other hand, what we heard mostly is the inversion of this explaining. And this is, I think, a little bit new for not for the specialist, new for me or whatever. So in sense of this is not deceived himself and me, not only, and also as we can hear, this is not deceiving as well his environment, because he's beschämt, also charming, that he knows, oh, this me or whatever, his colleague, maybe understand and see to him which kind of state he's experienced now, something like that. Between the basics are afraid, cold, or warm, arousal. So, and between these forces, between these forces, I would say, he wants to show up that he is possessing the own body. But when we hear explanation, mostly every psychiatrist or psychologist, whatever, he would say, well, this is a dissociation from the situation, from the outside, from the reality, dissociation. Yeah, further, please, go further. Why? Why did he dissociate it? I didn't make nothing, or nothing unusual. I need search help, as well as his colleague. So the real, or if he would or she would explain it more, the psychoanalytic model would be, I think, at least, the following: the connection from the Geisteswissenschaft, also human Wissenschaft, that more with historical, geographical, archaeological, but not so the opposite sides, so-called the real, precisely not natural Wissenschaft, mathematics, math, physics, chemical, architecture, engineering, and whatever. So on these sides, in these sides, we would going on with this explanation. It should be the body. This kind of neurotic, hysterical, because this was the first generally explanating for whatever for arousal experience that we have. Let's call it hysterical, in sense of he's infected. Like Freud say that in the childhood or the infancy, when the infant, not the fetus, but also is dependent about his or her exigence to be sober, to cleaning and so on, to eat the basics needs. He is dependent from the person, from the outside, from reality, from the person who cares him. So, and he's neurotic later, in the store yesterday, is hysterical in sense of he becomes not psychotic, but he loses a little bit the connection to the reality, disconnected, let's say so. And the other side, if we go further, it should be that this also dissociated from his body. At this point, I want to explain something. Freud says the first, or always from Greek philosophy, knows as Hysteria, was more so for woman, not for man. He says no, also the man may becomes hysterical. This is a way how you manage the situation with about your bad body or arousal. But what he says was that the hysterical have the possibility, the capacity, from his own or her own constitution to processing with a big amount of sexual of arousal. In the second neurotic way, it was the OCD, the compulsion, obsessive compulsion, but let's say compulsion, the way to coping the ego between the body, so-called ID, the unconscious one, ID, the hereditary, whatever, and the constitution, which made about the father and mother for everyone, living beings, and to the reality. To reality, it means the environment, the physical environment, not only psychic. Psychic we call only the ego, the person that we want. I would like to say more cognition in the like in USA. This it means to see and to hear, and to processing, or also thinking. And thinking is analytical. There is nothing without analytical. Solve et coagula. Alchemic, whatever, in the old school of alchemic, in Mesopotamia, in Syria, whatever, right today. And this way of coping a situation as OCD is more also the same mechanism of dissociation, but from the körper, from the body. And Freud said the OCD is obsessed in the psychic, in thinking way, he can, because he can't constitutionally not um, processing, coping this lot of energy of sexuality. This is the difference to the hysterical. The hysterical may a huge amount of sexuality, of his body energy, of sex, whatever, of arousal, of libido. He can processing with him. So we are here in the neurosis. Between neurosis, we have to differentiate it far away the personality and psychosis. Personality between neurosis, that Freud says it would be a slightly form of distortion to the reality, and extreme form as psychotic, that was more a breakdown, completely breakdown of the ego, as he say, ego or weakness as explanation model why the psychotic goes or dissociated completely from the reality, because this is common over three variants of illness, because they were not satisfied with the reality, with the partnerity or work or sexuality, whatever. Others are the second reason, it would be the personality or constitution. He has not the optimal heredity to be strong enough to satisfy his libido, etc. The second way of explanation. And between these three, neurosis and psychosis and personality, please don't forget, I personally